So if you hear the whirrings and the buzzings and the motorings of the guy outside my apartment with the leaf blower, then I apologize for that. You know, it's December. Leaves are falling down on the ground. There needs to be some maintenance outside, so I appreciate the folks who are paid to do their job to clean up the outside and actually make things presentable. But either way, all set to say, you could hear some noises in the background. I apologize for that. Today we're talking about the waiver claims, because the Detroit Red Wings have lost out on Jonatan Berggren to the St. Louis Blues. The Dallas Stars have lost out on Vladislav Kolyachonok to the Boston Bruins. Laurent Brossoit has cleared, so big shout out over to Chicago for getting their guy clean through waivers. And then we have Arshdeep Bains, who is on waivers today. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments all your opinions about these waiver claims. I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay, we're not going to do that. Sorry. Let's go out there and actually talk about this, because we got two waiver claims, one current waiver situation. I wanted to start things off by talking about Jonatan Berggren is no longer a Detroit Red Wing. He gets claimed by the St. Louis Blues. And honestly, when I think of the Berggren situation with the Red Wings, I think of a guy who had oodles and oodles of potential when he was drafted in the second round of the 2018 NHL Entry Draft. 33 overall pick by the Wings, and I honestly really liked Berggren as a draft pick back in this time frame, because in his 2017-18 year, Berggren was way over a point per game for Skellefteå AIK in the Swedish Junior League, and he even had an extended cup of coffee with the Skellefteå AIK regular SHL team. On top of being over a point per game at the U18s and doing all the stuff that he did in Sweden, there was so much to like out of Berggren, and there seemed to have been at least some form of a guarantee that this guy would absolutely light it up in Sweden. Of course, Swedish success does not guarantee NHL success, so by the time Berggren made his way over to North America, when he was still producing in the AHL, that was seen as a really good sign. Hey, this guy went from a near point per game SHL guy to a near point per game AHL guy. And then the season after, he had 28 points in 67 Red Wings games. So Berggren went through a pretty stable development up to that point, but things started to round themselves out when he wasn't really able to hold on to an NHL job. His production never really exploded past the 20-ish point mark. Even this season, he's on pace for 26 points in 64 games, which, okay, considering the games played, this actually would be a huge improvement. But Berggren went through a bunch of issues in Detroit. We had trade request rumors and the idea of him wanting a better opportunity, and he wasn't being gifted a role in the National Hockey League. He had skill, he had all these talents that made him an NHL player, but he just didn't fully capitalize on all of that at the most opportune times. So the fact that he was sent down on waivers yesterday made me kind of curious. I was like, wait a minute, wow, nobody really wanted this guy in a trade? There's no way Stevie Y didn't shop Berggren around at the very least. So the fact that he was able to go to waivers does kind of indicate a negative trade market for this guy. And I guess St. Louis, they saw the opportunity to take him for free, and they're like, okay, well, let's do that. We just lost out on Alexandre Texier, and he's tearing it up in Montreal, so let's try to get some forward support here to bolster up a team that has really needed the offensive bump. And if Jonatan Berggren can provide some of that same skill that he had in the AHL, then maybe that's a pretty good fit for both sides. Ryan Hanna of the Wing Wheeled Pod went out there and said that Berggren was claimed. Really easy guy to root for, and I hope his wish for a new start lands him a bigger role in the NHL. Offensive ability is there, full game just never came together as needed in Detroit. Wish him the best. Now, we had ourselves another waiver claim in Vladislav Kolyachonok, a guy whose last name has always been a really fun one to pronounce, and he's a little bit of an interesting name as well. 24 years old, 6'1", 194, left-handed defenseman, drafted by Florida back in the second round of the 2019 NHL Entry Draft. He made his way over to Pittsburgh in the... oh man, it was a really big transaction that saw Kolyachonok go from Florida over to Arizona, all the way over to Utah, to Pittsburgh, to Dallas, and now he's going to be going over to what in the world is it? The Boston Bruins. So, yeah, no, Elite Prospects ain't even updated yet. There's been a lot of movement for Kolyachonok as a player, and it just goes to show you that there is interest in this guy. He went from Florida over to Arizona in a trade for Anton Strawman. Look at that, eh? That was 4 years ago. And then from Arizona, he went over to Utah because Utah existed, and then we saw ourselves the John Marino trade? Oh no, it was a waiver claim. That's what it was. Okay. Yeah. I'm learning about all this as it's happening too. Goodness gracious. Pittsburgh over to Dallas. Let's take a look at this. Matt Dumba. Right. Dumba was also waived, and he was sent down, so there is a poetic nature to that situation as well. But the reason Kolyachonok is interesting, aside from his extreme journey around the National Hockey League before 25 years old, he's got 3 points in 10 AHL games and 3 points in 11 NHL games, so he's on pace for about 16-ish, 59 games played there for Kolyachonok, is the fact that this guy actually did have a pretty reasonably good profile. Take a look at this over here. Oh, that's the tweet that's going to go out for the video later in the day. But let's go out there and take a look at this. So Nikhil went out there and quote tweeted a post on Vladislav Kolyachonok. Any team in need of a depth defender with solid movement on the back end would be wise to claim Kolyachonok, who was just placed on waivers. Nikhil went out there and said Vancouver should absolutely take a stab at him. And then you had Riot Survivor saying this. My first instinct was, no way he falls to our waiver position. Then I remembered the Canucks were in last place. So, Kolyachonok, interesting puck-moving defender, a guy who's probably more on the depth side, but who does still have a positive wins above replacement number. Pretty cheap. $800,000. He'll be heading over to Boston, and we'll see whether or not he's capable of bolstering up that blue line. They've been pretty good recently, the Boston Bruins, so we'll see whether or not that actually is a possibility. We can skip over Laurent Brossoit because I don't think anybody was really expecting him to get claimed. But today we saw Arshdeep Bains placed onto waivers. Now, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that Elias Pettersson is coming back? Who really knows? But what it does mean for Arshdeep is the fact that he is no longer being given an NHL role at this time. And honestly, I'm not surprised. The entire issue with Bains heading into the summer and heading into this season was, hey, the guy is waiver eligible. He all of a sudden is not able to be sent down without waivers, so Vancouver doesn't want to lose him for free. It's why he made the team back in October. And despite the fact that Arshdeep Bains has scored 5 points in 26 games this year, I think a lot of Canucks fans would say they've been very disappointed with the way Bains has been an NHL player. 24 years old, local guy from Surrey, BC, 6 feet 183. Yes, it's true he plays with grit. Yes, it's true he plays with pace, and he likes to hit guys, and he's kind of fast. But he doesn't really do much when the puck is on his stick at the NHL level. He doesn't have that same confidence, that same swagger, that same execution that he has had in the AHL up to this point, and it's quite a shame, really, considering the fact that Bains has worked his way up from being undrafted in the NHL to being a WHL superstar, to being an AHL superstar, to being a point-per-game stud in the playoffs, winning the championship in the AHL last year, to still not finding the necessary pieces to put it together at the NHL level. And just be a name that I think a lot of folks seem to just get more annoyed with than anything. Add on to the fact that he is a hometown guy, and I think the majority of Canucks fans would want to see him succeed with the Vancouver Canucks. It's a pretty unfortunate situation for Arshdeep, but hey, if it happened to have come to this, I mean, you think about all the other forwards in Vancouver. Lucas Reichel was waived. That guy cleared. Arshdeep Bains, if he does get claimed, I would be honestly quite surprised. I don't know if any other NHL team would be able to see value in him at the NHL level in the same way a Berggren or a Kolyachonok have seen value. But you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this player being placed on the waivers? What are your thoughts on the Red Wings losing Berggren, the Dallas Stars losing Kolyachonok? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.